people live on this planet, and we all depend on water to survive and prosper. We use water to drink, to grow our crops. We use water to produce energy and support our economy. Water is what controls our climate and weather. So essentially, SWOT would track all of this water for the same reason NASA follows water on other planets, because water is essential to life as we know it.
Absolutely essential. I have plenty more questions for you coming up, and we will be taking your questions throughout the broadcast. Send us your questions using the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater to learn more about the SWOT mission. And NASA is celebrating the completion of its historic Artemis 1 flight test. The launch from Kennedy Space Center last month was viewed by millions around the world. While in orbit around the moon, the uncrewed Orion spacecraft gave us these breathtaking pictures. Absolutely stunning, Nadia. Take a look at that detail.
Splashdown. From Tranquility Base to Taurus Littrow to the tranquil waters of the Pacific, the latest chapter of NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion, back on Earth.
On Sunday, December 11th at 9:40 a.m. Pacific, Orion splashed down in the Pacific Ocean after a 26-day mission. The Artemis program will explore more of the moon than ever before and eventually land the first astronauts on Mars. Very exciting.
Very exciting indeed, Raquel. In fact, Artemis and climate change are two priorities for the agency. And you know, Earth and Moon are directly connected as celestial bodies. We're looking how climate change might impact this Earth-Moon system. So there might be more connection between SWOT and Artemis. So stay tuned.
Well, stay tuned for that connection. Now, let's introduce you to our team covering today's launch. Hundreds of people are gathered right now at our Hawk's Nest viewing area. That's where NASA's Jasmine Hopkins will talk with our experts. NASA's Megan Cruz and Denton Gibson will provide us with commentary from the Mission Director Center. Megan, NASA's Launch Services Program selected SpaceX to send SWOT into orbit.
Yeah, and so for the last couple of hours, we've been listening to both NASA and SpaceX teams as they prepare for launch today. And great news, both the vehicle and the spacecraft are healthy, the range is green, and the weather is looking excellent, 100% go for launch.
Yeah, absolutely, and which isn't always the case, but we have great weather for this.
Yeah, I love hearing 100%. This is the first time I've actually heard 100% for a launch, so that's exciting. And commentating with me today is Denton Gibson. He is a mission manager with NASA's Launch Services Program, and the perfect person to chat with me today because before your current role, you used to work with SpaceX really closely.
Yeah, for a long time, I was the Falcon 9 engineering team lead for the Launch Services Program. So, and I started working with the Falcon 9 when during our first mission with SpaceX, so that was many years ago.
Okay, many years ago. But a lot of experience you add today. So the next big step for launch today is to start loading propellant into the rocket. Just a few minutes ago, the NASA team gave the go for propellant load, but now we have to do a SpaceX poll, right?
Right, and what the NASA poll is, the various groups within NASA making sure everybody's ready to go. We just heard that poll, everybody's good to go, and now the SpaceX team is going to confirm with the NASA team that we all ready to go.
Okay, perfect. Here's a live lookout at Launch Pad 4 East here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. We'll monitor the SpaceX poll that we just told you about, and then we'll check back in once fueling begins. Back to you, Raquel and Nadia.
Thank you. We have a fun way to interact with our launch broadcast right now. You can print out a SWOT bingo card. Nadia is holding one up here. It has different words on the card you'll hear while watching this show. To print one, just scan this QR code you see on your screen. We also have the website go.nasa.gov/SWOT-bingo. When you hear a word, mark it off, and when you get a bingo, share your win on social media with the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater. It's a good way to stay awake.
Yes, it's fun. Fun to play with kids during Christmas.
Exactly. Now, let's go over the specs of the SWOT satellite. It weighs more than 4,800 pounds at launch. The satellite is just over 16 feet in height. Its solar panels extend to more than 48 feet in length. about the size of a tennis court. It will cover over 90% of Earth's surface at least once every 21 days, and SWAT will increase our tracking of lakes from a few thousand to over 1 million. The mission is set to run for the next 3 years. SWAT is a joint mission between NASA and the French space agency CNES. JPL shipped the payload to France in the summer of 2021. For more than a year, engineers worked at Thales Alenia Space to integrate and test the satellite. After a series of functional and environmental tests, it was ready for the trip from the Nice airport back to the U.S. In October, the satellite and its shipping container arrived at Vandenberg Space Force Base, where it was mated with the Falcon 9. Now, Nadia, this is a complex international partnership. Can you talk about some of the challenges the team faced?
Well, we actually gel very well with all our partners, CNES, Canada, and UK Space Agency. We're currently a large multinational science team spreading 6 continents. Quite a soccer team, just like a World Cup.
Exactly. And now you're all here today.
Yes, we are.
Well, water is fundamental for life. SWAT will help us understand where Earth's water is today, where it is coming from, and where it will be tomorrow. Take a look.
So for me, SWAT is water.
SWAT is precision.
In one word, I would describe SWAT as beautiful.
SWAT stands for Surface, Water, and Ocean Topography.
SWAT will be observing the elevation of water surface in the ocean, on the land. The water surface height will allow us to assess the water storage in lakes and stream flow of rivers.
Our water is one of our precious resources. SWAT is unique because it is the first global view of our ever-changing water supply on Earth.
SWAT's main instrument is called Karen, which is the K-band radar interferometer. Karen is what sets apart SWAT from other missions. It's a unique instrument that we're flying for the first time.
The Karen instrument uses the 2 antennas, which are spread out on either side of the spacecraft, in order to bounce signals off of both of those to get a much larger view of the surface.
And being able to do it in very high resolution, higher accuracy, and also a wide swath so that we're able to measure large tracts over the Earth in a relatively small amount of time.
SWAT is a pathfinder mission using new technology to address transformative questions on climate change and its impact on our environment.
We're collaborating with CNES, the French space agency, for these programs, but we're also helping the global community to be able to contribute and collaborate towards making our home planet a better place.
SWAT will make our models better, and our understanding the water budget helps us be able to steward that precious resource.
If water is out of balance, we could face droughts, and it could also lead to floods.
SWAT is going to be observing water in oceans, and ocean science is essential for understanding sea level rise and climate change.
Now we are facing a time that we need to be very precise. Therefore, we can accurately predict what will happen in our coastal cities 50 years from now.
Understanding that it is a finite source and we can't rely on that forever is something that's really important.
I'm just so excited and can't wait to see how it impacts the lives of others.
Without really understanding the Earth, we cannot protect it, because we know that the missions that we work on are going to have an impact on our children and our grandchildren.
NASA has a family of satellites in orbit right now, studying how the whole Earth works as a system. Karen St. Germain is NASA's director of the Earth Science Division. Thank you for joining us today, Karen.
It's great to be here.
And what kind of role will SWAT play in NASA's fleet of Earth-observing satellites?
Well, NASA has a fleet of 25 satellites today, missions that are looking down at Earth, at the atmosphere, at the land, at the ice, and the oceans. And these satellites tell us how the Earth works as a system. But SWAT, as we know, our planet is that we live on a water planet. And so SWAT will give us the first high-definition view of not just our oceans, but the inland waters as well. And and these waters play an important role in climate change and in everyday lives.
So it will be an exciting addition to the family.
Absolutely.
Now, what can we learn through space-based tools like satellites that we can't gather here on Earth?
Well, space is the ultimate high ground. It's a unique vantage point from which we can see the entire Earth. And that's especially important when we're looking at parts of the Earth that are remote, difficult for humans to get to. And I'll just give you one example. The southern oceans play an incredibly important role in our climate. They've absorbed more than the oceans in total have absorbed about a quarter of the carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gases that have been emitted in the industrial age. The southern oceans, because they're cold, play an incredibly important role. So set from the unique vantage point of space, we can see these remote areas and better understand how they play into the global system.
And Karen, just going forward, how do you see SWOT being a trailblazer for the next Earth science mission over the next decade?
It's a great question, and we are already hard at work building the next generation of Earth observing satellites. And these will also look at all the aspects of the Earth system, but just as important as what we're doing is how we're doing it, with open science principles to try to accelerate the pace of discovery from these systems, and with partners around the world. So SWOT is in many ways blazing the trail for how we will develop that next generation of capabilities to accelerate discovery and the use of the data to inform decisions around the world.
And Karen, how are you feeling about today's launch?
I could not be more excited. We've been waiting for the SWOT launch, and as the team has gone through the challenges that you discussed a few moments ago, and so it's been a long road to get here, and we are so excited. We cannot wait.
Oh, it's very exciting. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us.
Enjoy the lunch.
We all will. All right. Thank you so much.
Now, it is T-minus 32 minutes and counting to today's launch of the SWOT satellite. Let's check in on launch operations. Megan is live. Megan, preparations for this launch began hours ago. So where do we stand right now?
Yeah, so Falcon 9 fueling is underway. SpaceX's launch director gave the go for propellant loading about a couple of minutes ago. So now liquid oxygen and RP1, or rocket grade kerosene, both are going in to the rocket's first stage.
Right, correctly. And it's underway, and everything is going smooth so far. No issues to report.
Perfect. So if we take a live look at the pad here, a beautiful shot of the payload fairing there with SWOT tucked safely inside. Denton, we talked about why SpaceX starts fueling so close to launch. Why when other launch providers start hours earlier?
Yeah, and one of the main reasons, they're using densified propellants. So they're very, very cold. That way it allows them to fit more fuel and oxidizer into a tank without having to increase the size of the tank. And the reason why it's so close to launch is that you don't want those densified propellants to heat up any, and that will cause a lot of cause you to kind of bleed off some of your oxidizer, etc. So, and that's why they do it so close to launch. It doesn't give that fuel and those propellants much time to heat up.
And as we look at this live picture here, you can see that telltale sign of soot on the booster there. That means it's flown to space before.
Yes, this thing has flown 5 times before this, and it's a combination of Space Force missions as well as some commercial missions. So we do have some familiarity with this booster, and the soot is just a little seasoning on the booster.
Some seasoning. I love how you say that. Okay, well, perfect. So far, so good. A really quiet count. We're hearing the call-outs we're expecting. Nothing out of the ordinary. So, again, so far, so good. So we'll send it back to you guys, Raquel and Nadia.
Thanks for the update. We'll go back to our commentators as we get closer to launch in just a few minutes. But first, we have some questions to answer about the SWOT mission and water. Our first question is from a student. Here's Meadow.
Hi, my name is Meadow. I'm 7 years old and I live in Studio City, California. I wonder how much water is on planet Earth.
Hi, Meadow. Good question. There are more than 1 billion cubic kilometers of water on Earth. A lot of water, Raquel.
It's a lot of water. So thanks for your question, Meadow. And we have a social media question coming up as well. Let's see it. At Kawan wants to know, what is the most important thing to know as a NASA scientist?
To know as a NASA scientist, well, hard work, some math and physics is a good skill, and have fun while doing it.
And you possess those all, Daria. We have another question coming up. Zeros and Math wants to know, what's the accuracy of SWOT?
We are shooting for centimeter precision with SWOT. It's a very precise mission. We are improving our accuracy about 10x compared to our current observing capability of the ocean water and inland waters as well.
All right, thank you. All right, we have one more question coming in. Kevin Rainville wants to know, will it give us the rate of sea level rise?
We will definitely observe the rising oceans and rising sea, particularly close to the coast. And as we collect more and more data, we can estimate the rate, which is, the change over a certain period. This is what the rate is. Yes, excellent question.
Yes, it was. Now, remember, you can send your questions online by using the hashtag #TrackingWorldWater. Now, you are looking live to the launch pad right now. We are T-minus 28 minutes to liftoff. SWOT data will help researchers better understand the ocean's role in climate change. Let's go to Jasmine live at the Hawk's Nest to learn more about the mission's science.
Thank you, Raquel, and welcome to the Hawk's Nest. This is the main viewing location at Vandenberg, and there are over 500 guests scheduled to be in the surrounding area tonight, and right now I'm thrilled to be joined by Li Luangfu, the SWOT project scientist who's been working on water monitoring missions for over 2 decades. Welcome, Li.
Thank you very much, Jasmine.
Of course.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We're so glad to have you. It is very special. Can you tell me, what are the main science goals of SWOT?
Yeah, the main science goals are to better understand the ocean's role in climate change and how in a warming climate is affecting the Earth's rivers, lakes, and the reservoirs. So more than 90% of the heat since the Industrial Revolution, the global warming has been absorbed and stored in the deep sea. SWOT will provide a high-definition view of ocean topography for calculating ocean currents that transport the heat from the atmosphere to the deep sea. So the data will help improve ocean models to assess the ocean's capacity in the future to keep absorbing heat, protect humanity from global warming. And also in a warming climate, the water cycle of Earth is accelerating, making it very difficult to track and manage water resources, and also difficult to predict flood and droughts. So most of the lakes, rivers are not well sampled, but the SWOT for the first time will provide a global survey of the elevation of the lake storage of water and the flow rates of river, allow us to better model and so manage the water resources and predict floods and droughts. This is in a nutshell.
Right. Very good in a nutshell. And I like that you said that this is the first time that we're seeing something like this. So what sets SWOT apart from previous satellites?
Yeah, it's all about the spatial resolution and the coverage. For instance, the footprint of the radar on SWOT is 1,000 times smaller than conventional altimeter, making this spatial resolution of SWOT much, much higher. And also, it will cover all the ocean and the surface water without any gaps between 78 degrees north and the south.
Wow. So we're getting something we've never seen before. And Li, you've been working on SWOT since the beginning for 20 years. What does it feel like to be here for launch?
Yeah, this mission is 20 years in the making, and this is the 4th satellite mission. I serve as a project scientist. So, but this mission is the most complex and challenging, representing the culmination of my 40-plus years career at JPL working on oceanography from space. So my feeling now is a mixture of excitement, fulfillment, and also some anxiety.
Right, yes, a little bit of anxiety. I know that you and your team will breathe a sigh of relief when we're done tonight.
Absolutely.
Fantastically. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Raquel, back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine and Lee. The SWAT satellite is truly a remarkable spacecraft. Earlier, I got a chance to look at it up close with SWAT project manager Parag Vaze. Parag, we're standing here in front of a 1/3 scale model of SWAT. So can you tell us a little bit more about the key scientific instruments on board?
Absolutely. So on this model, of course, you see the full spacecraft, but the instrument package is really on this configuration, first featured with our brand new instrument called the Ka-band radar interferometer. What makes it an interferometer is really having a radar with signals that are transmitted and received from two separate antennas that are separated by a large distance. We also need other instruments to make SWAT work. We have a radar altimeter, which is a more traditional kind of altimeter, gives us precise but very small strip maps. We have a microwave radiometer that's used to correct the altimeter measurement in terms of the water vapor as the signal is going through the Earth's atmosphere. And we also need a set of instrumentation that tells us a very accurate position of the spacecraft in space itself. We have a GPS receiver that you don't see here, it's inside. We have a DORIS system, and we have the laser retroreflector array.
And can you let us know how SWAT will communicate?
Data, first of all, 1 terabyte of science data every day that has to be downlinked and then processed into products. The key to being able to do that, of course, is we have a very large recorder, memory recorder inside the module here, but then getting it out is the job of this antenna system. That's the X-band antenna system that's downlinking at 600 megabit per second. And we also have an S-band system that's more for command and control and basic mission operations.
We obviously can't take SWAT like this in space. How will it fold and unfold after launch?
So the whole system is, of course, needs to be compact. It's folded off to the side of the payload module that you see here, and it basically deploys in 3 phases. One that's first coming up, and then moving out, and then the antennas finally deploying on the side themselves, and then the whole system is locked in place.
It's a very interesting explanation. Thank you so much, Parag.
Of course, happy to do that.
Time to check in with the launch team at the Mission Director Center to see how the countdown is progressing. Megan and Denton, how are we looking?
So we are T-minus 21 minutes and 59 seconds and counting until liftoff, and fueling of the SpaceX Falcon 9 continues, right, Denton?
Yep, it's continuing, it's progressing just fine. Everything is moving along as it should.
Great news. So the U.S. Space Force, we know, is responsible for the range, making sure it's safe to fly our intended trajectory. Any concerns there?
No, actually. The range is green right now. Weather's looking good. All of the assets in the correct configuration. And so we're all completely green right now.
Talk to me about trajectories. That it's not an easy task to design one, right?
That's where a lot of the real rocket science is to design a trajectory. It's basically you're trying to get from the launch pad to a point in space. And along the way, there is some things you may encounter, the other orbiting satellites, some debris up there. So you have to make sure you avoid it. And the work that goes into it is very interesting because the team has a very detailed analytical model of how the launch vehicle will perform, and they marry that with everything that's orbiting the Earth and trying to understand which paths we can take, when we can launch, times, etc. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and that's where a lot of the real rocket science is done.
Yeah, and we're talking about years of work, right?
Yes. In some cases, it's over a period of years where you kind of developing your trajectory for the spacecraft, and then also developing the trajectory for the launch vehicle. So it's a lot of work that goes into it. Yeah,
today's launch will be a huge moment for a lot of people who have worked their trajectory, who have worked on this spacecraft, who've worked on the vehicle. It's many years of hard work.
Yes, it's been 20 years since some of the folks who've worked on the spacecraft has been working this mission. So I mean, it's going to be an exciting time for everybody.
And now here they can see again their spacecraft sitting in the payload fairing at the top of the Falcon 9 on the launch pad here at Vandenberg. The Space Force also monitors the weather for us. And again, let's take a look at the weather graphic we have prepared for you guys. The launch weather officer reporting 100% go for launch. Amazing.
Yes, it's very rare to see that, but we're happy to have it.
Absolutely. And speaking of seeing, it seems like we are going to see the launch today, right? Visibility is looking amazing. You know, not the typical fog we usually see here.
Yeah, it's usually foggy here, but we're in for a treat because we actually got some clear day today, so we can actually see the launch vehicle.
Yeah, and then here we see some of the venting we were talking about. You know, we have to vent, right, to maintain the right kind of pressure.
That is correct. I mean, and you'll see this as a normal part of it. You'll see it kind of cycling on and off throughout the count, just maintaining the appropriate pressure within the tanks.
And this is venting of liquid oxygen, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so everything is looking good. Can't wait to see this launch as we were talking about, so we'll send it back to you, Raquel and Nadia.
All right, thank you so much, Megan and Denton. Joining us now on the West Coast is Janet Petro, the Center Director for Kennedy Space Center on the East Coast in Florida. Thank you for joining us today, Janet.
Thank you, Raquel. Happy to be here.
Great. Now, most launches take place at Kennedy, but sometimes, like today, we launch from Vandenberg. And why is that?
Yeah, so the Launch Services Program has multiple locations where they launch from. And so, as you mentioned, we're here today on the California coast, and we have several locations in Florida, but also as far away as Alaska and New Zealand. I mean, it generally depends on the science mission itself, right? The science mission and ultimately the orbit that it needs to be in to conduct its science. So, in general, we launch from the East Coast when we need an equatorial mission. And then in the case of today, where we're looking more at the polar missions, we generally launch out of the West Coast here at Vandenberg.
And tell us more about the Kennedy Space Center involvement in launches here at Vandenberg.
So the Kennedy Space Center, we are very, very proud to host the Launch Services Program. And we've been doing so since 1998. And that program, I'm very proud of that program. I tend to think of them as the world-renowned experts in launch vehicles, and they really, really do understand all of the launch vehicles and provide a great service to our agency. They really do the end-to-end services on launching a mission. You know, they'll work with the spacecraft providers. They'll work on the design. They provide data, telemetry, and then, like, you know, today we're providing the launch services, the mission assurance for each of the missions. And like I said, they've been doing it since 1998. They do a really, really great job wherever, whatever location the mission is going out of. So very, very proud of that program, and we host them out of the Kennedy Space Center.
That's an excellent program, Janet. And what Earth-related missions are coming up for you in the near future?
Oh, goodness. I am so focused on this year. You know, we just had the JPSS-2 in Lofted, and now what we're doing today with SWAT. I'm trying to think next year. We have a little bit of a break until April coming up. We did earlier this year launch the GOES mission.
Right, some ISS launches.
Yeah, I can't, and you know, of course, the other missions outside of the Launch Services Program. Of course, we do the crew to the International Space Station. We do the cargo to the International Space Station, and you know, we just came from our big mission was Artemis, and very, very proud to get that launched out of our pad. And you know, we just recovered the vehicle down in San Diego, and that was an incredible experience. The Exploration Ground Systems program down at Kennedy, they're the ones responsible for the front end, the launch piece of that program, and then the recovery operation here on the West Coast, and they did a really outstanding job. We had a tremendously busy year at the Kennedy Space Center, and I like to say it's our diamond anniversary, our 60th anniversary. So it was a great way to really cap off the year with Artemis, and now ending with the SWAT program here tonight. We had a record number of launches. We're at like something like 53 launches that we supported from the East Coast, and our center supports whether it launches on our property, Kennedy Space Center property, or on the Space Force property, Cape Canaveral. We provide all kinds of services, whether it's our propellant services or standing up our EOC. And so if you think about that, 53 launches, that's about
fantastic
one a week.
Year. Thank you, Janet, so much for that.
Thank you all.
Anniversary. Now, there is a growing community of scientists eager to use SWOT data. Let's go to Jasmine live at the Hawk's Nest to meet one of them.
Yes, Raquel, that is right. I'm here with somebody who is also eager to get his hands on that SWOT data. Toby Minear with the Ceres group from CU Boulder in Colorado. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are so glad to have you here. You are a research hydrologist with that group. So can you tell me what are some of the applications of SWOT?
Well, SWOT is amazing because it has this really unique capability of measuring water levels over a big area. And so for people that are water managers in particular, there's a lot of excitement there because we really don't have this kind of capability at present. We have to do these things from the field, individual point measurements and things like that that are very hard to make in the field. And so we have a lot of interest from people that are like municipal water agencies, state agencies for dam safety, federal agencies, all really interested in getting their hands on some water level data in particular and storage change. So be very exciting to see it.
It is very exciting, and really what I hear you saying is that SWOT is changing the game. So what are some of those specific applications, maybe agriculture or flood zones? How is it changing our lives in our own backyard?
Yeah, well, so a few things that will change are, so for example, flood risk. We really don't have a good sense of where flooding occurs and when and why, so how much water requires flooding to occur. So for example, a good place for that is on the coast. We don't really have very many gauges along the coast at the freshwater and saltwater interface. And so, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of changes there, a lot of changes inland for lakes and wetlands too.
Wow, that's really exciting. And I understand, Toby, you're also in this group called the Early Adopters. What is that and who's in that?
Yeah, so the Early Adopters group is about 25 different organizations. They come from all over the world. And these are people that are interested in SWOT data. They've heard sort of through the grapevine that there's some data coming out for water level data. And these are agencies that are non-governmental organizations. They're governmental organizations ranging from city level water agencies up to federal agencies. So a lot of excitement there from the water community.
Right, very exciting. Toby, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks. Raquel, back to you.
Thank you so much. This will be the last launch for NASA's Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, Thomas Zurbuchen. During Thomas's 6 years in the role, he has overseen nearly 100 science missions, including SWOT, DART, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, the Mars 2020 mission, and the James Webb Telescope. He also co-authored and authored more than 200 articles and received many agency awards. Congratulations, Thomas.
Congratulations, Thomas. Yes, Thomas will be missed. He is known for his energy, dedication, and scientific curiosity. When I was doing my first lunch with him, Sentinel-6, Mike Friley, he was very supportive. So yeah, Thomas will be missed. But congratulations, enjoy, well deserved.
Absolutely, enjoy that. The president of France's space agency, CNES, Philippe Baptiste, sent us this message about today's launch.
The result of NASA and CNES historic partnership in oceanography that all started more than 30 years ago with TOPEX Poseidon is really essential. And I am very proud to send you this message and to be with you, at least in spirit, for this launch. I want to say once again a few words how proud CNES and its team are to be involved in this ambitious international adventure alongside NASA. SWOT is the first space mission to survey the planet's freshwater resources on a global scale. The water elevation of lakes and water courses, the discharge of rivers, and the fine dynamics of the oceans are all vital data that are going to help us better adapt to climate change. In this respect, SWOT truly marks a revolution for space hydrology, and we are proud to be embarking on this endeavor with the French community of scientists, of users, and of course with our industry. I wish you a successful launch, and go SWOT, go!
Go SWOT! Climate change is a topic front and center for everyone, including NASA. Joining us now is NASA's Sandra Conley. Thank you for joining us, Sandra.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as a leader in science, what does it mean to be part of this mission?
Oh man, this is such an exciting mission. You know, it's unprecedented in many ways. It's going to be the mission that for the first time ever, we're measuring surface water around the world. Freshwater sources, saltwater sources, how they ebb and flow and move in between each other, how the energy is transferred across those water bodies, and also with the environment. And it's really going to help us improve our weather forecasting ability and our climate prediction abilities.
It's a real trailblazer. Now, SWAT is a joint mission between NASA and CNES. Climate change knows no boundaries, so why is it important for a mission to be an international collaboration?
So, science knows no boundaries, right? So our scientists are from all around the world, and this partnership with CNES is tremendously important. It spans over 30 years on ocean altimetry missions, and that's not even counting other partnerships that we have with CNES to achieve our science. So we're looking forward to many, many more missions together with them.
Well, Sandra, as you know, SWAT is the first science team that fully complies with open science requirement. Can you tell us more about NASA's open science paradigm and how do we kick off the year of open science with SWAT?
You know, that's a great question. So our space satellites give us a really unique vantage point to observe the Earth, right? So we're able to look at it as a global system, right? And the data that we've collected through our satellites over the 50 years allow us to really look at the ground, the atmosphere, and the oceans. And what open science and open data is going to enable us to do is to take that to the next level and give it to the individual user, whether they're decision makers at the local level, at the regional level, or even tribal communities. Is to give that information to people so that they can make informed decisions regardless of their business. You don't need to actually be a scientist or an engineer moving forward to be able to leverage this data and apply it to your day-to-day business.
Looking forward to the data. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you.
Now, let's head over to our commentators. We are T-minus 7 minutes our launch of the Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Megan and Denton will navigate us through that terminal count.
Yeah, just under 8 minutes to liftoff, and we are looking fantastic for launch. Weather is a go. No collision concerns on the range for our instantaneous opportunity to launch at 3:46 and 47 seconds Pacific time. We see a live shot of the Falcon 9 sitting on Launch Pad 4 East here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. This reusable two-stage rocket standing about 230 feet tall. The first stage is the bottom two-thirds of what you see there. That's called the booster. And then at the right over that, you see this black piece there. That's the interstage adapter, which connects the first and second stage. And then at the very top, the payload fairing. And you see SWAT painted on there. SWAT is tucked safely inside of it, folded up to about the size of a mid-sized car.
Engine chill. And we just heard the call out for stage 1 engine chilled, and basically what that is just the getting the engine ready for the flow of the colder temperatures. So it's kind of like if you imagine if you were to jump in a really cold pool and you know your muscles tense up and everything else, and we don't necessarily want that with the engine. So we slowly start to bleed in those liquid oxygen to kind of bring it down to the temperature that it'll be seeing during flight. So that's really what that is. It's really preserving the stress on the engines and is getting ready for flight.
Yeah, that was a great analogy.
So,
yeah, you made me cold thinking about it. So we see some of that liquid oxygen venting off now, both the first and second stages, right?
Yeah, and you're seeing that because the booster is very, very cold because that liquid oxygen is inside there. And soon you'll hear the call out for stage 1 RPO leaks. They're wrapping up fueling of the stage. Of the stage 1 right now, and so we should hear that call out here in a few seconds.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And so SpaceX is also loading helium
Stage
gas
1 fuel load, correction.
into both stages, and we'll continue to top off until about a minute and a half before launch. Falcon 9 uses helium as a pressurant, meaning it uses helium to maintain pressure in the tanks as liquid oxygen and RP1 are consumed by the engines during ascent. The first stage has 9 Merlin engines, hence the name Falcon 9. The second stage has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, so you'll often hear references to MVAC throughout the count.
Yeah.
Next call out will come in just a couple of seconds. You'll hear that the spacecraft is on internal power and configured for a launch. That just means that the spacecraft is now running on batteries versus getting power from the strong back you see there.
Tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
And the strong back is getting ready to retract. The strong back is that mechanical structure you see just to the right of the vehicle, and they're just pressing up the tanks and getting ready for that. You'll see it tilt back slightly initially, and then when we get closer to launch, you will see it tilt about 45 degrees back, get out of the way so the Falcon 9 can clear the pad with no issues.
And that tilt starts when you see that cradle. It's kind of like a hug around just at the base of the payload fairing veil. You'll see those arms start to open, and that will allow for the strong back to start tilting backwards.
Yes, that is correct. And you can see from the video, you can see that cradle's opening up, and then you'll see a few seconds after that's completed, the strong back will tilt back slightly.
And now we're going to pause for an upcoming poll here.
NLM on countdown 1. NLM copies.
NLM is the launch manager for this mission, NASA's launch manager for this mission. Again, we see that strong back retracting, and you see those connections between the strong back and the rocket. Those are umbilicals, and that's what continues to feed the rocket with liquid, electricity, gases, right up until launch, right?
That is correct. And what we're waiting to hear right now is just the SpaceX team confirming with the NASA launch manager that the team is ready to go. And so
LD, NLM, countdown 1. LD, go ahead. NASA is go for SWAT launch.
There you go. Perfect news.
Stage
NASA
1 launch
go
load
for
complete.
launch.
Stage 1 POGO.
Yep, and you heard the team is all good to go. And so right now, Stage 1 LOX load is complete. At this point in time, the Stage 1 is completely filled with fuel. We're just waiting for them to top off the Stage 2 tank.
And today we're going to be treated to some sonic booms, since the booster will land right back here at Vandenberg Space Force Base, just about 1,000 feet from where it's going to launch.
Yes, which is always exciting to see. I mean, it's just so fascinating that the booster is going to land basically just very close to where it took off from.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And as you said, again, because visibility is so great, we won't just see the launch. We're also going to see that booster coming back to land.
Yeah, it's taking everything I have to stay inside and not go outside and see this with my own two eyes.
No, you have to sit in here with me. And in these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final health checks on its primary communications, avionics, and propulsion systems in preparation for flight.
This is The Rock. Range is green.
And we just heard that call out that the range is good. And we should surely be hearing the call out for that Stage 2 LOX load is complete. And then at that point, all of the propellants will be loaded onto the vehicle.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
You just heard that call out, so all the propellants are done loading. And at this point in time, we're just gearing up for Falcon 9 to go into startup, which is basically the computer taking over and going through its last set of configurations and checks to make sure that we're good for launch leading into T0.
And remember how Denton was telling us earlier, we see the amount of liquid oxygen coming off of the rocket fluctuating throughout the count. Here, that's what we're seeing again, to maintain that pressure, the correct pressure in both stages.
Yep, and what you're seeing right now is them venting the LOX that was in the umbilical tower 9. So it's venting that out and getting it all ready to go for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And we just heard that call out. Falcon 9 is in startup, which means the flight computer is taking over and is just preparing for its initial launch sequence.
And now both stages are pressurizing for launch. Next call out in just a couple of seconds.
Launch director, go for launch.
SpaceX launch director confirming go for launch. Range remains go, weather is go. This launch will mark the 101st mission of NASA's Launch Services Program based at Kennedy Space Center.
15 seconds.
Here we go.
10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of SWAT, our first global survey of Earth's surface water to study how this ever-changing resource affects our climate.
And there we get a nice view from the ground camera, and also we switch to the onboard camera.
Now, Denton, you didn't go outside to see the launch, but now we're feeling it inside here in the Mission Director Center, the rumble all around us from launch.
Absolutely. And now you're getting a good look at the onboard camera looking down towards the aft end of the rockets, and you can see the Merlin engines coming to life there.
And this room coming to life, really. Lots of rumble going on in here. And we're soon going to hear that the rocket is supersonic, meaning it's going faster than the speed of sound, followed by Falcon 9 reaching what's called max Q, the moment of peak mechanic stress on the rocket.
Yeah. Look, we getting nice views.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Just heard a call out for supersonic. Getting a good shot of looking at the onboard cameras there.
Max Q.
We just stepped through max Q.
Next call-outs are going to come.
Engine chill.
And back engine chill, which means getting the second stage engine ready to start, and so which means we'll be coming up on stage separation shortly, followed by stage 2 ignition.
We see this beautiful shot of all of the Merlin engines, all 9 of them lit up.
That's what 1.7 million pounds of thrust look like.
Lots of thrust. So the next callouts are going to come in quick succession, so let me walk through them really quick. So at T plus 2 minutes and 15 seconds, we're going to have main engine cutoff. That's MECO, meaning the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage are going to shut down. And then a few seconds after that, stage 1 and 2 will separate. Stage 1 will do a flip and do a boost back burn to orient itself back towards Earth for that landing here at the Space Force base.
And there we get a good shot of looking at the interstage. Basically,
MECO.
the camera is looking up towards the second stage.
Separation confirmed.
And there you go.
Live video of stage 1 and 2 separating.
MVAC ignition.
And there's a good look at the
Stage
MVAC
one,
ignition
startup.
the MVAC engine coming to life.
That's great. You are seeing the stage 1 booster do its flip. And now the engine bell of the MVAC engine lit up. This is a camera shot of stage 1 here, again on its way back to Earth. In just a couple of seconds, we're going to see the payload fairing jettison.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We just heard a call out for fairing separation, and there's a good onboard view of the SWAT spacecraft, and you can see the fairing is gone at this point in time.
Another camera shot here of the engine on the second stage continuing to carry SWAT to its intended target. We have a couple of camera views of this engine here, so you might see a couple of
Stage 1
different
boost back
angles.
shutdown.
Yeah, and then you'll see it cycling through the views of the stage 2 engine, and as we get closer to the separation, it'll go back towards the spacecraft.
And we just heard a call out for the boost back burn ending on stage
Both
1.
stages are on nominal trajectories.
And that call out was just to say both stage 1 and stage 2 doing what they were expecting them to do.
And we're hoping to get a video of stage 1 landing. So sometimes we don't always get it because of it's coming in so fast, and sometimes it's hard to capture it. So occasionally sometimes we don't get it all the way, but we're hoping to get a good video this time.
T plus 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the launch of SWAT, and we've had a nominal ascent so far, no issues to report. Again, this is a video of a live shot of the engine on stage 2. SWAT stands for Surface Water and Ocean Topography, and this will be the first mission to provide high-definition data on more than 90% of the water on our planet's surface. It's a joint mission between NASA and CNES, France's space agency, with contributions from both the Canadian and UK space agencies. SWAT is the fourth NASA LSP science mission to launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base, and the sixth LSP science mission overall to launch on a Falcon 9, Denton.
Yes, and we got a lot more missions coming up on the Falcon.
Yeah, to see the partnership really grow for you too. I mean, again, you really worked from SpaceX from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, and seeing their evolution over the years has been amazing to watch.
So coming up, we're going to see the booster begin its entry burn soon, and again, that entry burn is to slow it down as it approaches Earth for the landing here back at the base, instead of a drone ship.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome to see it come back to land. And as I mentioned before, seeing it landing right, very close to where it took off from is awesome.
So then how does this work? So again, we're going to have the entry burn that slows it down, and then there's a landing burn, right?
Yeah, so you have the boost back burn that kind of gets it back towards the launch pad, and then the entry burn kind of slows it down as it's coming into the atmosphere, and then you have the landing burn that basically puts it down gently on the pad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, SpaceX has become real pros at landing their boosters.
Absolutely. And it's becoming routine for them at this point in time, and so this is just a normal course of business for them.
Again, we are looking live at stage 2.
Stage 1 entry burn.
And we just heard the call out for stage 1 entry burn. Means it's coming back into the Earth's atmosphere. And there we go. We got a good video of it.
Yeah, so you can see those hypersonic grid fins illuminated by the flame from the booster.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
You see that the screen went black there. That's because they just shut down the engine.
That's correct.
Both stages are on normal trajectories.
But I was talking about those hypersonic grid fins that you see. Those help guide the Falcon 9 booster back down towards Earth. So now that we're done with the entry burn, the next burn is the landing burn. Mm-hmm. It's just one engine right just before it touches down.
Correctly. Just gently set it down on the pad.
The next milestone for the second stage is going to be...
Stage 1 is transonic.
SECO 1.
Yeah, and SECO 1 is the first shutdown of the second stage engine, and then for this mission we're going to have 2 burns. So you'll see after stage 2 shuts down, it'll coast for a while, and then we got a good video of stage 1.
It's about to land. How exciting!
Coming in for its landing burn there.
Again, the grid fins moving ever so slightly to make sure that it's coming down exactly how they want it to come down.
Yep, and you could see the pad coming into view.
There it is! Wow, those sonic booms!
And then the sonic booms. Trademark sonic booms.
Wow!
And good touchdown of the stage 1
touchdown.
booster.
Perfect.
Stage 1 landing is confirmed.
So glad to see that live video. Again, sometimes we don't get it. That was amazing to see and feel, really.
Yes. See and feel, and we get to use this booster again.
Yeah. Again, this is the 6th flight of this booster.
That is right.
Okay, so we are still awaiting again that shutdown
of 2 FTS is safe.
Of the second stage. Yes. And when it does shut down, it's going to be over the Pacific Ocean, just west of the southern tip of Baja California. Again, exactly where we want it to be, following that well-thought-out planned trajectory.
Yep, and the team is reporting back. Everything's looking nominal. Stage 2, it's right where it's supposed to be, and looking good.
MVAC shutdown.
And we should see MVAC shutdown coming up here shortly. And there we go.
Yep, SECO 1.
Nominal parking orbit.
Confirmed. That's the trajectory you're seeing. It's flying south from where it just launched, and it'll continue to fly south down towards Antarctica. And so again, everything going as expected so far. The second stage is now going to coast for about 30 minutes. You can see that it is shut down there from that view. And this is a view of the spacecraft. Again, because the payload fairing has been jettisoned, you see SWAT right there on your screen. expose now that we don't need the payload fairing to
Correct.
safely get it out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, correct. And once the whole purpose of the fairing is to protect it while the vehicle is flying through the atmosphere at supersonic speeds. And then once you get up out of the atmosphere, there's nothing to harm the spacecraft, so you can jettison that extra weight and give your vehicle a lot more performance once you get rid of that extra weight.
Okay. The engine not glowing orange as it had before, because again it is shut off, so it will coast for about 30 minutes with SWAT attached to it before some maneuvers are needed to keep it on the right trajectory, again, to get it in the orbit that we want it in. So Denton and I are going to be back then with you to walk you through those operations, but for now we're going to send it back to Raquel and Nadia, who I'm sure are very excited to talk about how the experience launched today.
Whew, that is right, Megan and Denton. Just 10 minutes ago, we watched a spectacular launch from Vandenberg here in California. Nadia, describe what was going through your mind at that time.
What a spectacular, truly spectacular launch. It was a very bright splash in the sky, and a very loud one too. What an entrance. Welcome to the era of SWAT. Very excited.
I've had some cheering going on here at the desk.
Yes, and the car went off, yes.
Yeah, we had car alarms going off. It was really exciting here for our view. Now, soon the SWAT satellite on board will separate from the spacecraft. SWAT stands for Surface, Water, and Ocean Topography. The satellite will survey nearly all the water on Earth's surface in unprecedented detail. SWAT will provide insights into how the ocean influences climate change, how a warming world affects lakes and rivers, and how communities can better prepare for disasters like floods. And we are covering every angle of the SWAT mission, from the new data the satellite will provide to how it is paving the way for future NASA Earth missions. Now, SWAT is a culmination of work by a global team of engineers, scientists, and technicians committed to improving our understanding of Earth. Let's get to know some of the people behind the mission.
Planning for future generations requires us understanding how much water we have.
And we need to understand the water cycle in a lot of detail, and SWAT will provide that for us. My name is Tahani Amar.
I'm Cedric David.
Mark Simard.
Christine Jabara, and I'm an integration test engineer at JPL.
I study the world's rivers.
I'm one of the principal investigators for SWAT.
SWAT is an Earth orbiting satellite. It stands for Surface, Water, Ocean Topography.
SWAT will for the first time make measurement of water surface elevation, not only on the ocean, but also on the lakes and rivers of the entire globe.
This in itself will be a scientific revolution.
Collaborations and relationship build bridges, and SWAT will be that bridge across the world.
SWAT is being designed jointly by NASA and the French Space Agency, with help from Canada and the UK. I was born in France, so SWAT is a match made in heaven for me.
Coming to work every day, it's always really nice to know that the system that we're building will collect science data that will help people.
I think finally I found a meaning to all of my research.
I believe SWAT will create a lot of peace because we all need water.
Now more than ever, it's important to recognize that water connects us all, and it might be the one thing that unites us all.
You really see how hard your team has worked there.
Yeah, we have a great team. You know, we gel really well together. We scientists, we dream, and engineers make our science fiction dreams come true. And then collectively, we make this NASA magic that enables discoveries and for the good of humanity and science.
It's magic indeed. We want to show you how some of SWAT's technology works, but to do that, Nadia and I had to go tap into our athletic skills for this one. Take a look. All right, Nadia, in order to learn more about SWAT, we have to play a little basketball.
That's right, Raquel. We're trying to explain how the heart of the SWAT mission works, which is a new instrument, a radar interferometer, which we lovingly call Karen. So Karen has two antennas separated by a 10-meter boom. One of the antenna transmits a signal that bounces back from the Earth's surface and received by two antennas with a little bit delay and out of sync. Now, Karen uses this information to compute the distance between the satellite and the Earth's surface, and they calculate the water height. So let's see how we explain it with the basketball.
Okay.
If you don't mind standing there, feet away from me.
All right, is right here pretty good?
This is perfect.
Okay.
And we will bounce the ball just like a SWAT satellite bounces a radar pulse between two antennas.
Okay. Yep. So what are we seeing here right now?
We're seeing how the ball, which is our radar beam, bounces over the Earth's surface, and by knowing the range, the distance, and we compute the height of the water surface.
So the ocean isn't a flat surface, there's waves. Like, how do you calculate that?
That's right. Let's bring a box.
Okay.
So did you notice when the water is a little bit higher that the ball returns to the antenna, to us, a little bit faster? That's how we know that we're retrieving topography, just like in the name of the mission. A satellite is doing thousands of bounces per second to capture the data on both sides from both antennas over a wide strip on the ground, about 30 miles, 50 kilometers wide. And then once we do enough of those stripes, we'll eventually cover the whole globe.
Nadia, I could really hear your excitement and passion for SWAT in that package. Why are you so excited for this new technology?
Yeah, it's a really pivotal moment, I think, for our space science industry as we are testing new technology with SWAT. This is our first in-flight demonstration for the SAR interferometry, and this opens a new way of observing Earth water height. So yes, it is a pivotal moment, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes, and like you mentioned before, the scientific heart of SWAT satellite is the Ka-band radar interferometer, or CARIN, and it measures the height of water on Earth. Jasmine is live at the Hawk's Nest to learn more about how the technology was built.
That is right, Raquel. We're back at the Hawk's Nest, now joined by Ava Peral, the lead systems engineer for the CARIN instrument on SWAT. Welcome, Ava.
Hi.
We are so glad to have you here. That launch just lit up the sky. What did you think?
Oh, it was impressive, really impressive.
It really was. It was beautiful. So you work on the CARIN instrument. Can you tell me what sets that apart from other instruments?
Yeah, so CARIN is a radar, and NASA has launched radars before to study the ocean from space. But CARIN is a very special type of radar. It's a radar interferometer. That means that the signal that bounces off the Earth is received simultaneously by two antennas. These two antennas are separated by a long distance, about half the size of a tennis court, and they have to be positioned very precisely to levels that are like micrometers. So we're talking about the width of a hair. So you can imagine that adds a lot of complexity to the SWAT mission, but it is that technology that enables the resolution and the accuracy that we're expected to achieve with SWAT of the Earth's water.
Right, so we're seeing things in a precision that we've never had before, which is very exciting and complex. So were there any challenges that your team faced while creating CARIN?
Yes, CARIN has been pushing the envelope in many, many different fronts. I can give you many examples. One, I just told you before about the mechanical precision that we need to have positioning these two antennas. We also have a very high power amplifier. We need an enormous amount of power to be able to get that signal back to the satellite from the Earth at a level that is detectable by the radar. And that level of power at our frequency from space is by itself a technological achievement. We also have the radar produces massive amount